Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode 110 of How I Built It Today. My guest is Mike McDerment of FreshBooks. I am so excited to talk to Mike because I have been using FreshBooks since 2008, 2009, something like that. Most of my adult freelance career outside of high school, where I just kind of used Excel. And after a small journey away from FreshBooks to use QuickBooks Online in 2018, I, like the prodigal son, came back to FreshBooks, missing what I once had. So I'm very excited to talk to Mike today about how he built up a company that I have been using for a third of my life, which is crazy. He offers, of course, fantastic advice on how he built the company and how he is growing at a good pace with his customers, not trying to grow too fast or anything like that. And I just think that this is a fantastic conversation, no matter what stage of business you're at, because Mike has seen a lot of it at this point. So I will get to the interview in a minute, but first, of course, we need to thank our sponsors. This season is brought to you by Plesk. Do you spend too much time doing server admin work and not enough time building websites? Plesk helps you manage servers, websites, and customers in one dashboard, helping you do those tasks up to 10 times faster than manually coding everything. As someone who just spent a bunch of time finding the right tools and automations to save myself time, I can tell you that Plesk is invaluable. And you can try Plesk for free today at plesk.com/build. That's plesk.com/build. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at Castos. Castos is a podcast hosting platform built specifically for WordPress. Their seriously simple podcasting plugin lets you manage all of your episodes and podcast RSS feed right from your WordPress site, but have your files hosted on a dedicated media hosting platform. I really love how the Castos team takes a common sense approach to their pricing too. You can create as many episodes and podcasts as you want. You don't have to worry about how much storage you're using or silly bandwidth restrictions. And if you're like me and already have a ton of episodes from an old host, they've got you covered there too. Castos will import all of your podcast content into their platform completely free of charge. It is literally one click of a button. The Castos team has put together a really special opportunity for listeners of this show. They're giving away their most popular package, the YouTube republishing tier, where they automatically convert your audio files into a video format and publish them right to YouTube, completely free for one listener. For a chance to win, tweet at me at jcasabona and at CastosHQ and tell us why you think you should win this free year of Castos hosting. On February 1st, 2019, they'll pick one winner to get this $340 package completely for free. Thanks so much to the Castos team for sponsoring today's episode. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of How I Built It, the podcast that asks, how did you build that? Today, my guest is Mike McDerment, founder and CEO of FreshBooks. Mike, how are you today?
I'm well, thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for coming on the show. I was saying in the pre-show that I am a big fan of FreshBooks. I used you guys all the way back in like 2008 or 2009 or something like that. So I'm excited to hear your story. So why don't we start off with who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so Mike McDerment, co-founder and CEO of FreshBooks. What we are is ridiculously easy to use invoicing and accounting software. We've 20 million people have used the software since we started. What makes us different is we only build for folks who invoice their clients. And we solve a whole bunch of billing problems in there, billing and accounting problems, frankly. So it's available desktop and cloud. If you invoice, you need FreshBooks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, I guess I'll admit this to you on the air, but I used FreshBooks from, like I said, like 2008 or something up until the beginning of this year. And I was like, I need something that can handle products, because I'm moving mostly into the products business. And so I moved to a competitor. And boy, was that a mistake. I'm moving back to you guys at the beginning of next year, like the next fiscal year. I'm just like, what a, like you said, it's ridiculously easy to use. And moving to your competitor, I saw just how much easier FreshBooks is to use than what else is out there. So, I've seen the error of my ways, and I'm moving back. I appreciate your software.
I am sorry for your trouble. I'm grateful for your your support, and yeah, we've actually done a lot in the last year that I think you'll quite enjoy when you come back. So we're waiting for you. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited. So this is fantastic. You have ridiculously easy invoicing software. We were talking a little bit in the pre-show, and so kind of. We're going to talk about your accidental journey, right? Why is this called an accidental journey?
Well, the way we got started was I was running a small design agency helping small businesses build their websites and do some internet marketing and logo design, all kinds of things. And billing my clients using Word and Excel when I accidentally saved over an invoice. And, I got super frustrated, and I'd started building small web applications for my clients and figured maybe I should do that for myself. So built a simple thing, and that became what is now FreshBooks.
Wow, that's fantastic. And we talk about this a lot on the show for longtime listeners. I feel a lot of founders were solving a problem, scratching an itch that they had, and then it turns out that other people had this same problem. So you were using Word and Excel. And you decided to build this for yourself. Did you do any research into like the feature set or what was out there? Can you give us a time frame? We're talking like 2006 or so, right?
Yeah, that's about right for time zone. So a little over a decade ago. And in terms of research, we took a very unassuming approach, I guess. So built the initial thing for myself, and then we did conduct structured research, calling people up. Even when we were in the basement. So I had a surveys, take people through, like, why did you start looking for us? What would you call this thing? Because we didn't even know what to call it at that point. And then, if you had to describe it to someone else, how would you do that? So, and then what else would you like? That kind of thing. What other pains can we help you solve? So through a lot of customer service and through a lot of research, we sort of fleshed out what the product should be over time and how to improve the offering we already had.
Gotcha. That's great. And so when you built this for yourself, were you immediately like, this is something that I could charge for? Or like, what was the time between you built it and started using it and then you realized that this was a product that you could release?
So about 8 months after launch, about 2 years since we started it, we had like 10 paying customers. So we started out, I think we had a business model applied to it. But I wouldn't say we had things like pricing and packaging correct, right? So the way we structured our packages basically meant a lot of people could use it for free. I don't think that's a bad thing. It worked out well. But we were basically trying to figure out what is the product, what features are necessary, where do people see value, and what do they want to pay for. All those things were, we were kind of groping our way through the darkness, trying to figure out how to find a sustainable path forward.
Gotcha. Yeah. And let's see, again, just talking about kind of my personal relationship with FreshBooks. I think, like I said, I got on it around 2008, 2009, more likely 2009. My friend told me about it. And I think she had an affiliate link. Did you have like an affiliate program at that time to help you grow?
Well, yeah. So we would have, it's interesting. We had a referral program where people get links inside their own accounts. Yes. And so it worked a lot like an affiliate program where, you could share a link with somebody and that would be effectively, short answer, yes.
Nice. And so you mostly conducted interviews, customer service. You said after 2 years, you had 10 paying customers. You have like 10 million plus now. I'm just curious to learn kind of what the jump was. You had 10 paying customers. What would you say is the moment everything clicked for you and you started to grow?
Yeah, and I guess I get that question a lot. The simple answer is I'm still looking for it. I think success is doing like a million little things right while nobody's looking, and then all of a sudden it kind of turns into a thing. Maybe there's these occasions where there's this major turning point, but I'd say we just kept going. Like the biggest thing like we did was we just kept going. We kept trying to improve. We kept trying to get to know our customer better and serve them better. And, over time, there'd be like, oh, we've got a new, we worked on our pricing and packaging, or we added a feature, but it's hard to really see major changes in the curve even when those events happened, right? So it's really about the direction and the continued progress and, trying to get better all the time. That was our story, at least. I'm sure other people have like this blinding moment and it all changes direction, but that wasn't us.
Yeah, no, and that makes perfect sense. People in the podcasting space, especially, I started off a lot in the WordPress space here. They're like, how did you grow your show? And how do you get so many downloads a month? And I'm like, I don't know the one thing I did to make that happen. It was just kind of consistency and like you said, just, keep going with it and keep working with it.
Yeah. And then sometimes if you're putting things out there, at least in a consumer product like ours, or maybe your show, like I can think of times when like people would point a link to us, right? Mm-hmm. Like, the folks at 37 Signals, like pointed a link to how we handled like a challenge that we had that they liked. And there was like, oh, all of a sudden all this traffic comes over and more people learn about you. So those kinds of things do happen, but 100 of those things happened, right? So it's no one thing.
Yeah, that's really cool. And that's really interesting, right? I think that's good advice, or maybe encouraging words for people who are starting a product and they're not seeing the out of control overnight growth that you hear about, right? Back in season 1, we talked about the Olympics were going on. My guest and I talked about how you see the gold medalist at the Olympics, but you don't see the years and years of practice that they put before that to get to that point.
Or the 3 Olympic games where they didn't even medal, right?
Right, right, yeah.
There are, I think this is a terrible thing that's almost happened with the media and these companies. Like there are the odd company, like who've done it the first time, but a lot of the really big successes and most of the companies that happen really, really fast are people who are repeat entrepreneurs, right? So, if I started all over again, could I do it better, faster, cheaper? Maybe. Like almost certainly, I'd either fail faster or I'd make something as big or bigger faster. But that would have been based on all this experience I've been getting doing this.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense, right? My first podcast was not great. I learned a lot of lessons, and I launched this one, and I was able to apply those lessons, much like you are able to kind of apply what you've learned over the last 10 or so years, which is fantastic. And I think that's what people need to hear, because I still think that sometimes I'm going to launch a thing and it's going to be a huge success, and that's going to be my boatload of cash that I know I need or deserve or whatever. So you said that before we get to the title question, I do want to ask one more about kind of the research and kind of building up FreshBooks. You said that you were running a design agency and then you launched FreshBooks. At what point did you decide that this was the thing that you wanted to focus on full time? Or did you basically say like, I'm not going to do client work anymore, I'm just going to focus completely on this accounting invoicing software?
Pretty quickly, I was excited about the product and got about 80% of my time there, but it was years for that last 20%. And I had some employees in that business, so I couldn't abandon them. And what I found was if I spent 20% of my time doing the other thing, I could make enough money for them and me so that I could focus on this other thing. So there's pragmatic reasons. But yeah, then there eventually, after probably 2 and a bit years, started firing my clients and which meant trying to find them good homes, like somebody else who could take good care of them. But that was, it was a progress. It's kind of, and that's the one side that's, I guess, nice about a client service business is, you can kind of wind things down gracefully over a period of time, if you like.
This episode is brought to you by Pantheon. Starting a new project? Looking for a better hosting platform? Pantheon is an integrated set of tools to build, launch, and run websites. Get high-performance hosting for your WordPress sites, plus a comprehensive toolkit to supercharge your team and help you launch faster. On Pantheon, you get expert support from real developers, best-in-class security, and the most innovative technology to host and manage your websites. You can sign up a new site in minutes with a free account. You only pay when it goes live. That is my second favorite feature to Pantheon, only to the easy ability to create dev, staging, and live servers and push to GitHub. It's very easy to set those things up on Pantheon. So you can head over to pantheon.io today, again, to set up a free account. Pay only when it goes live. Thanks so much to Pantheon for their support of this episode and this season of How I Built It. For anybody who's trying to move from client work to a product, do you think that that's maybe the best piece of advice you could give, or is there some other thing you took away from that experience?
Well, I think I just know that it's hard and the learning curve is really steep. Mm-hmm. They're very different kinds of businesses and business models and things that make them go. I think, client service is a great way. If you've built a successful client service business, it probably means you have great customer empathy. You understand being able to deliver and focus and execute, organizing resources and time. And all. You need all that stuff to start a product company. But the thing about a product company is the way you market is different. The way you, build the product is different. The way you, everything about it is different. And so I think just recognizing that you're kind of carrying two, they're just not the same, and being prepared for that learning curve and I need to unlearn a bunch of stuff here because it's just not the same game anymore.
Yeah, I wish that we had this conversation a year ago, because over the last year I've learned that lesson. Though I don't know if I would appreciate that advice as much as now that I'm on the other side of it, right? I say I'm able to sell a $5,000 or $10,000 website to one person, but I can't convince 50 people to buy my $100 course because it is very different. And so that is, for anybody who's looking, that's just fantastic advice. Awesome. Thank you for that. And so now I would love to get into the title question. And this is very exciting because a lot of people that I've been talking to lately are the visionaries for the product. And then they hire a development team. But in your case, you are the founder and you also built the product. So how did you build version 1? And then when did you know, do you still do hands-on code, or when did you know it was time to start letting go of that?
Well, I think the first thing I should do is come clean and say that makes me sound like I contributed more to the product than I probably did in the end. And so I did build the first version. I built a prototype to bill my clients, but it was pretty soon after that, a couple months, that I met my co-founder. And he, has doctorate in computer science, and he started building things out. And so I then went to more of a design role, so product design, product management, and then focused on also marketing and trying to get the business, operational and organized, finding customers, all that stuff. So there was a division there. So I think that's probably a little more in line with what you're used to hearing. That visionary that's more about what the product is, who the customer is, connecting those things to build the right stuff. That is ultimately the role I played. And so, sorry, with that clarified, the question was what?
How did you build it?
Whew. With great customer empathy over a long period of time. Those are some of the key ingredients. So I don't know how technical do you want to go. When there's so many ways to answer that question. Is it the awareness of your product in the market? Is it trying to figure out what to build? Is it, these are the technologies we chose to build on? How would you, and sorry to, sort of break it down, but that's a big question to me. I don't know how to box it into something I can answer.
Absolutely. And generally the answer I'll give, because I've gotten this question before, is whatever you're most comfortable with answering. But I am super curious with the prototype, what technologies specifically did you use? And then as you grew, whatever you're most comfortable answering there, whatever you kind of touched the most as FreshBooks became FreshBooks.
So my role in growing it up. So I think, for what it's worth, LAMP stack, right, at the start. Ruby on Rails didn't exist. Mm-hmm. right? So it was actually pre-2006 we got started. So we were building our own frameworks to do these things. And then by the time that stuff came out, we were pretty committed already. So LAMP stack, like I think it was like MySQL. I think they just kind of came out with the version 3 to go back there. Like, anyways, so with that, my role again became product management, voice of the customer, and also marketing. And also we started once we had a website up, and we generated a lot of traffic through like SEO and online stuff, and we still do. And that was kind of my responsibility as well. But then as soon as we had people coming, then we started having people who want to talk to us on the phone. So I did some of that, did some customer service there, and learned about our customers, asked them how they heard about us. So constantly asking, similar questions like, how did you hear about us? What could be improved? All that kind of thing to keep just, furthering my understanding of like, how do we improve? How do we win? How do we go further? And then bringing that back to the rest of the team. Like, here's what we need to build. I was pretty prescriptive about like, this is how I'd like it to be built as well. Those are always fun. And we had good, healthy discussions about that stuff over the years.
Gotcha. Now, this is really interesting to me. It's something that I've been hearing more and more lately. And I don't know if it's just because I've noticed it more or because it's becoming more important advice, but having conversations with customers on the phone is something that I've been hearing a lot more lately. Maybe it's that, people around my age or younger have an aversion to phone calls. They would rather just do things with email, but it sounds like phone conversations were integral to understanding your product.
Yeah, our philosophy has always been around customer proximity, like how do you get closer to the customer? And so not only email, not only phone, we were one of the first companies, maybe even the first to do customer service on Twitter. Wow. So they said, hey, that's just another channel to communicate with people, or Facebook or what have you. So that's the orientation is like, hey, I want to meet you where you live and serve you accordingly. And all of them are good. Now, what I will say is if you went from email to phone to in-person, and we did do in-person because we went to conferences and stuff too, I find that each medium has its own strengths and weaknesses as kind of like a research tool, right? So email, you're going to find out about a volume of problems. Mm-hmm. Phone's good for getting some color on those problems. And if you meet people in person, you'll find out what it is that they want that goes beyond whatever you're doing today. Right. And that's, those are harder. Like it's harder you just don't get that in email. You might get like a feature request, but that's not the same as like, oh, I think your platform should, be doing this other, like just live face to face is just a totally different ballgame. And so I'm a fan of all those mediums for, appropriate reasons in each case.
Yeah, that makes sense. Right. I think probably in person, people are more likely to be like, hey, you know what you should do? Like, just like, almost like it's conversational. Did you find that people are less likely to complain to you and like not complain, but give, let's say, negative feedback in person?
Probably. But like my whole thing is like, I'm always asking for what's wrong. Right. So let's just take the drama out of that and be like, I know we can, like, I'm always, people say, one of the things I find frustrating, and the thing about me is like, now I'll go out, let's say I give a talk somewhere. Okay. Or we get off this podcast and you say, hey, Mike, great job. That'd be wonderful. Let's hope we get there. And I'd say, oh, thank you. Why was it great? Right. Because that's when you're live, people will tell you and send them, be like, okay, great. Now I can say, great. You told me something we did well. My next question is, well, I mean, what can we do better? Like, and I do the same thing with this podcast. It's like, okay, that's great. That went well. Thank you for telling me that. What could I have done better? And I think that's the, seeking to understand and like constantly improve. To me, it's a hallmark of, I've heard it of other entrepreneurs as well. There's no, I'm not precious about this thing. Like, and I find, so long as we can have a civil dialogue and you're not like yelling, right? Then like, I think we can both learn a lot, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's great to hear, right? Because especially as a creator, you get kind of attached to the thing that you build. And if you want it to be the best version of what it is, you have to let go of that, right? You said, I'm not precious about this. I really like, is that what you said? Precious? Like, yeah, I really like that because it shows, you know it's a tool that people use and you want it to be the best tool possible.
We talk about that a lot with even like our design team here is like, and a lot of designers will come from elsewhere and they'll be like, well, this is how it's done. It's perfect. And we have a thing like called critique, right? Which is like, you cannot be precious in that room. And the idea is, hey, nobody's trying to like, you can internalize, feedback on work you've done as an attack or as, input to help you get to the next level and next better place. And, I'd much rather work with people who, are oriented in the second way.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? Because you're not going to grow unless you learn how you can do things better. And if you just think you make the best thing right out the gate, where are you going to go from there? So cool. I love that. So let's talk about as we kind of wind down time here. It looks like we're getting close to the half-hour mark. I've personally seen FreshBooks evolve over the last 10 or so years. So maybe we could talk about what are some of the big evolutions that you really liked in the product and what are your plans for the future?
Okay. So, I think we've had a pretty consistent track record of improvement. And sometimes I'll say the improvements are not as visible, but they are impactful, right? Because you got a lot of people using your software. Sometimes like a little workflow we can tune improves things. So, my favorite days are when we're launching stuff. Like that's just my favorite stuff, favorite days in the office. And so, I think the big one for me would be, hey, we've gone and built a new platform. We decided after all those years, I don't know if you know this, we have a new version of new FreshBooks. And seeing the rate at which that is changing and improving is very exciting to me. So we're now benefiting from, the first version was built on frameworks that we built, at a time before standards for building companies like ours existed. And now we're using Ember and a bunch of other, just more modern technologies so we can move a lot quicker and deliver better experiences. And that's been my experience. We're, we not only doing invoicing at this point, we now have, for those who don't know, and, sometimes we've had people say, oh, you don't do double ledger or bank rec, so you can't use you for accounting. We scale beyond you. And we say is, listen, you don't need to know that stuff even exists in our software today. You don't need to. But guess what? It's there. And if you grow to the point where you actually care about that, it's right there for you as opposed to imposing it on you. So I'm excited about that too, because we've had a lot of customers over the years who are great customers who, for one reason or another, decided they needed to sort of move on to the next thing. So that's a big thing that's happened now. And I think what we want to do once we have that bedrock, like, hey, we serve companies that invoice. We now, by the way, this is a positive development for you as you get into more product stuff. We can help you track other payments and sources of income beyond just invoices. So that's good. We're really focused on solving billing problems in general, especially for businesses that send invoices. And we have this accounting bedrock that you can build on and grow. And so I think the question is, hey, now that accounting bedrock's there, how do we really help you focus some more of your billing issues? That'll be the direction of our efforts.
That's really cool. And that's something that, if, especially if like freelancers or entrepreneurs or maybe solo entrepreneurs, are your target audience, that's something that a lot of people have problems with is maybe they don't think to bill on time, or they're a little tepid about sending that reminder like, hey, you haven't paid, it's been 40 days and you haven't paid the invoice. And so focusing on maybe I've misinterpreted what you said, but like focusing on billing problems, I think really, really help your customer.
Absolutely. And I just want everyone to know, like, what you just talked about is our bread and butter, and that's there and available today. So yeah. So if you use our product, you send an invoice, you can set things up in an automated way where, 15 days later or 30 days later, we will take care of, with a simple email saying, hey, this email is now 15 days since sent. Will you please, we can even help you collect payment. So there's a lot we do there, and we just see there's a whole bunch of ways to make your life even better, in and around issues pertaining to billing, and we're excited about that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And just to bring it back, that competitor that I'm on now does not do any of that. I looked for the automatic late fees or the late payment reminders, and they're like, you can do that through a third party. And I'm like, why? I don't understand why I would have to pay extra for basic invoicing things. But in any case, I'll be happy when the calendar turns and I'm back on FreshBooks. I'm not just saying that because you are on the show. I literally said this to my wife like a couple of weeks ago. I'm just like, I can't wait. So, this has been great. And I think there's a lot of really good insight that folks can take away, especially moving from client services to products. I mean, we focus a lot there, but just also the customer empathy things that I think people need to hear more of. But I do need to ask you my favorite question, which is, do you have any trade secrets for us?
Trade secrets. Here's the thing. I think the way we do customer service. So one thing I was thinking is, when you're coming back, don't be shy about phoning us. I don't know if you ever have, or emailing us if that's your preferred medium. We're here to help, and we even have some services where we can help you with your bookkeeping and move some data from one to the next, so you don't necessarily have to take care of that if that's interesting to you. So just FYI.
That is interesting to me.
Yeah. But then there's trade secrets. I think the thing about FreshBooks that's sort of uncanny and unparalleled, we really care about executing extraordinary experiences every day. That's what we call it. That's our mantra. So we want to build simple user experiences that exceed people's expectations. And, we love helping people, on the phone with a level of customer service that, frankly, most companies aspire to and talk about, but, really don't execute against. I think that is our, I don't know if but what I've come to realize is that's a culture thing, and you don't necessarily get it, right? Like you just don't. And so, so that's I don't know if that's our trade secret. I think our trade secret is that people really appreciate, or the customer service just really matters, and it's hard to do repeatedly over time at scale.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is great. And especially it's a culture thing because it does start within the company and making sure that the employees and the founders and everybody are on the same page about how they feel about a certain thing. And when they feel that, they execute on it better. And so if customer service is the most important thing within the company and the company culture, then you will have good customer service. Mike, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Where can people find you?
Thanks, Joe. Great being here. If you want to learn a little more about us or try FreshBooks for free, you can do that at freshbooks.com.
Thanks so much again to Mike for joining us. I want to repeat his trade secret, which is the way they do customer service. Don't be shy about phoning them. They put a premium on good customer service. And between the conversation with Natalie last week and some books I've been reading, I think that this is incredibly key at building your own business, especially for smaller businesses or freelancers. Offering that close customer service is the thing that separates you and differentiates you from the larger companies or the airlines of the world, right? Who, for the most part, make it seem like they don't really care about their customers. So I want to repeat that and double down on it. And to that end, my question of the week for you is going to be similar to last week, which is, what can you do to improve your customer service? Or what do you want to do to improve your customer service? Do you want to implement like a ticketing system, or do you want to offer phone support? I know that is something that I don't necessarily want to do, but if my customers ask for it, I would do it. Me just being me, email is better. I don't have a support, but what are you going to do to improve customer support? So let me know via email at joe@howibuilt.it or on Twitter at jcasabona. I want to thank my sponsors once again. They are Plesk, Castos, and Pantheon. You can find the show notes for this episode over at howibuilt.it/110. If you liked this episode, be sure to leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. It really helps people discover the show. And until next time, get out there and build something.